didn't want to let this story go unreported on this show, Amy, and that's about this pathetic, angry little man and would-be assassin responsible for the shooting last week in Alexandria that left House Majority Whip Steve Scalise injured, as well as 2 Capitol Hill police officers and a staffer.
And thank God over the weekend he was upgraded, so that's good.
Yep.
He was able to watch his LSU Tigers play in the college baseball World Series.
There you go. Belleville News Democrat was able to get some records unsealed, records of Kathy Rainbolt, who was the foster daughter of the would-be assassin and his wife. And it turns out that, according to the file, she was, this is a Tribune report, the girl was abused almost from birth to her death, including physical abuse from the shooter. The wife of the shooter, who's been under police protection,
said she had no idea this was going on.
she said there was no sexual abuse or anything like that. It was emotional and verbal abuse.
Oh, that's nice. You can pinpoint that for everyone.
Yeah, that makes it better.
Thank you so much.
Specifically, as a teenager, Kathy Rainbow told a judge her foster father hit her in the face when she failed to mow the lawn correctly. She got hit in the face when she argued. She got hit and dragged by the hair when she tried to get away. And, of course, there was the incident where Belleville police responded.
She ran to a neighbor's house to get help.
Exactly. And he then the shooter hit the neighbor woman, and then when her boyfriend came out, he fired a shotgun blast in the air to get him to stand down. So again, in terms of this whole investigation, what could have been done to prevent this individual from escalating the violence that was occurring at his hands in his home?
Too bad he still got a FOID card, but I mean, he was charged but never prosecuted in a number of those cases.
And what ultimately happened to Kathy Rainbolt, the foster daughter of the shooter and his wife?
She committed suicide.
Died of an overdose.
Right,
drug overdose. Dismal story. For more on the topic of the continuing fallout on the shooting, as well as political matters in D.C., we're pleased to be joined by Congressman Adam Kinzginger. Adam, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. I got to tell you, I heard you reporting that stuff. I hadn't heard that yet. And you remember the old show Quantum Leap? And I'm not really saying this to be funny. It just, I think back and I'm like, I wish I could quantum leap back to that moment and just beat the snot out of this guy. You just think about just the level of abuse and everything and what he ultimately did. Just, there are some people that are irredeemable, unfortunately.
Nasty little man, and apparently there was nobody around him to stop him from escalating from a nasty little man abusing a child to opening fire like you did last week. It's, there's evil in the world, as you are suggesting.
Real evil.
Well, with sticking on this topic for a second, we talked to your colleague Rodney Davis yesterday. Of course, was on site of the shooting, and thankfully he's okay. But the conversations going on among your congressional colleagues now in the wake of what happened last week about enhanced protection for members of Congress, including back home on things like town halls that are routine, as well as in D.C. with the idea of perhaps reciprocity for those members of Congress that have right to carry permits in their home states. What do you know about that? What are your feelings on it?
Well, I think it needs to happen. Look, Congress has a tendency, and the public has a tendency to, eviscerate Congress in front of themselves all the time, right? It's easy for a member of Congress to go in a town hall and talk about how everybody in D.C. is awful except for me. I'm the one that's going to go save it. The media, everything just, eviscerates Congress. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's kind of how it's been historically. So in many cases, Congress is slow to give itself anything. It's slow to say, hey, we need protection because then, people will complain and everything. But let me say this. All you have to do is look at, and we're going to have a post go on my Facebook today, which is going to be interesting. I don't want to give it away, but I would encourage people to watch for it. Look at the comments that people put in. I had a lady about a month ago arrested for threatening me. She's from Colorado, threatening basically to kill me. You look at the comments that have come in after the Alexandria shooting, and there is some deep-seated, kind of evil out there of people that, while most people feel really strong when they're on the internet typing, some of these people take that internet muscle, that internet strength, and can go do crazy things. So I think there has to be enhanced security, but we also have to be careful not to put ourselves in a bubble. We don't want to be in a bubble, but I want to just make sure that my colleagues are safe. I conceal carry everywhere I go in Illinois. I'm a licensed carrier, and I think it's the right thing for me to do.
Can you carry in Washington, D.C.?
Nope.
Well, we're allowed to actually carry in the Capitol complex. The issue with that is there's about 1,000 police officers in the Capitol complex, so it would actually be more dangerous, I think, for members to carry. But in larger D.C., we still can't, and
Right.
that's where I think
That's the point.
we should. And I frankly think D.C. residents should be able to get their concealed carry. I mean, it's a Second Amendment right.
Yeah, I saw you on yesterday with Jake Tapper, and you're talking about, this Friday is the deadline day for President Trump to turn over any possible recordings or memos relating to James Comey. And you said that Trump never said that there were tapes, just said, quote, Comey should hope that there are no tapes. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I think, from what I understand, his tweet basically said, Comey, I don't know the full depth of it, basically Comey better hope there are no tapes of the conversation. And there have been a lot of people that have construed that into President Trump said there were tapes, therefore we need the tapes or he was lying. And I looked at it and said, no, it's not that he said there were tapes. He's just kind of like, he better hope there are no tapes, which, kind of too cute by half, but at the same time, I don't think that puts President Trump in a position where he was lying about it. But I do think, they're going to be, I think the White House has put itself in a position where this issue is a distraction. They're going to have to clarify whether or not tapes exist. If they are, I ultimately think they're probably going to end up having to turn them over. But this is a thing where I've been encouraged seeing President Trump over the last kind of couple weeks throttle back a little on Twitter. I think he needs to do, I don't often use this guy as a role model, but he needs to do what Bill Clinton did, which was, while his issue was going on, keep saying to the American people, look, this is a distraction. I'm focused on getting work done for the American people. We have a lot of stuff to do. And when Bill Clinton took that position, he really turned public opinion in his favor, which is, I think, what President Trump really needs right now.
And he may get a lift in doing that from Paul Ryan, who's speaking before the National Association of Manufacturers, is reportedly going to restate that tax reform needs to be permanent, that he's open-minded on the border adjustment tax, and that it is going to get done in the year 2017. So that, combined with the news that Senate Republicans are planning on taking up Obamacare replacement next week for a roll call vote, signals some movement.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I would say this because I know you have good. Illinois has good U.S. congressmen. I'll say humbly, the colleagues I work with. But unfortunately, I think our senators are a lost cause on the Obamacare repeal. But you have a lot of listeners in other states that listen, and I would encourage people to do this. We passed a repeal bill out of the House. Right now, look, the Senate's going to send back a weaker bill. It's how the Senate works. It's kind of almost constitutional that they're always going to kind of do something like that. But they have got to do something. They have got to send something back to us. And ultimately, we're going to be looking at a bill that wasn't as perfect as the one we sent over, which wasn't perfect anyway. We're going to have to decide to vote for that or let this whole repeal effort fail. I don't want to see this fail. I want to see us go on to tax reform. I think that's like putting accelerant on the economy. And we can have, with the president, a really successful year, but we're going to have to learn that, governing is sometimes not as easy as being in the opposition is.
Do you think you should give up your August vacation to get all of this done?
Well, it's not a vacation, but
Okay.
I think if we're in a time where the limiting factor is the calendar, yes. But look, right now we have plenty of days we've been in session. We're going to be in session all this week, all next week, out for the 4th, but then all in the entire month of July. And in a lot of the case, we're not doing anything because we're waiting on the Senate to get their work done. And, the Senate and some of the senators like to blame the House. I don't like blaming the Senate because they're my party. But at the same time, they have got to get this Obamacare repeal done, and we've got to move on to tax reform. So whatever it takes to get it done, I'm in.
So you're willing to postpone the visit to the Dells to see the Tommy Bartlett Water Show if you need to?
Well, no, I'm going to still go to the water show. I just may have to miss both.
Okay, there you go. All right. Real quick, do you have any updated information in terms of causation or potentially motive, if it wasn't a collision, the cargo ship and the USS Fitzgerald that took the lives of 7 sailors?
No, and it actually still blows me away. Cargo ship is very unmaneuverable. So is, frankly, our ship in relative comparison. The fact that nobody saw this or moved is surprising. I think we're going to know more in the coming days. But I'm going to be really interested. It's so tragic. What a tragic, you're sleeping and next thing you know, you're in the middle of this collision is awful.
All right. He is Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Adam, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Take care, guys.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.